Cool. So yeah, let me tell you the origin story actually of BOBIC and how it all started for me. It actually all started really like 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was mostly investing. It was happy days. I got two unicorns, including one in crypto called Chiliz in sport, where I exited at $1.5 billion. Another one from Singapore, AIG, and then an IPO. Everything was fine up to COVID time. And when COVID happened, it was kind of the first shock for me, and I figure out that the world is going to shift. And at that time, the shift was from offline to online, and everything would be fine for people like me who are mostly investing online and digital first and so on. But I also find that this shift needed some sharing, and part of the sharing for me was to actually share the key of how you can actually grow business online. And that's where I start writing my book, Atomic Scaling. The book got published in March 2024. Happy days again, from March up to October or so. I was mostly doing speech as part of the speaking tour for the book. So speaking in China, speaking in Finland, in France, in Turkey, in San Francisco. And in October of 2024, I ended up doing a speech in Austin, Texas. And that was my second shock. The second shock was like actually I spent some time with some of my friends who from California who moved to Austin after selling their company, and we start exchanging together and what's happening in the world and so on. And that was really the second shock for me, where I feel put this in context. It was like pre-Trump election and so on. And I basically start feeling like the world is going to shift even more than what happened during COVID. It was not just a shift from offline to online. It was also this kind of macro shift between China and USA, and traditional finance and decentralized finance, with crypto, and obviously AI. And as I spend some time with my friends who are kind of part of this Elon Musk group from California to Texas, I kind of got this second vision after this second shock. And the second vision was like, with AI, we're going to live in a world of abundance, and we're going to live in this world of kind of this new renaissance. And some of my friends actually even call it the fully automated luxury communism. There is even a book about this. So it's all going to be fine and it's all going to be good ultimately. But before it's going to be good, it's also going to be very chaotic. And at that time, the second shock for me was a little bit similar to the first shock. I feel this need to share, and in that case, share the wealth. So the original idea actually of Bobic was kind of two things. The first idea is like we're going to create a world of abundance with AI, and this world of abundance, in my case, is also going to be created with algo trading. I was already investor in algo trading company and fintech company, so I was already familiar with this idea that we can create wealth through algorithm that actually trade, for example, cryptocurrency or currencies or stock and so on. The second part is we're going to have to redistribute the wealth, because during this stage of flipping the world, chaos is going to be painful for a lot of people, and we're going to be in a need to also finance all kind of things as this shift is happening. So from there, kind of the idea of Bobby kind of emerged originally with this idea that we are going to be in this world of abundance, having some kind of universal high income, UHI, not UBI, like universal basic income. This is from Elon Musk directly. Universal high income, meaning like we're going to create wealth through algorithm that's going to be redistributed, and we need to create kind of the pipes or the channel to redistribute. So that's really like the origin story of Bobic. On one side, the world of abundance with AI and algo trading, where I'm familiar as being already investors in multiple companies. And on the other side, this needs to create the pipes or the channels or the routes to kind of redistribute. From there, as the project evolved, I ended up traveling the world and discussing with, different people about the project. Some of my friends who still, who since then actually joined the project from Citadel and Microsoft AI and Goldman Sachs and so on, who are, experienced traders, but also like, yeah, a former CTO of Coinbase. I spent some time with Balaji at Network State in Singapore. And then this idea that this project is big and we need to kind of start somewhere. And the somewhere in the ladder is we're going to start with a family office. So why family office is it's actually a huge amount of money that is concentrated into the hands of just a few, like we're talking about, like, let's say the top 7,000 families who control around $11 trillion. So China being like 15 trillions or so, that give you an idea of how much wealth is concentrated in the hands of seven or so family office. 7,000 family office. And this family office actually are very little exposed to crypto. On average, they own maybe 1% of their total assets in digital assets. So digital assets being, for the majority of it, like 58%, being Bitcoin. Most of these families wants to actually increase their exposure to digital assets, but they also want to have more than simply buying Bitcoin. So we come in with different traders and algo trading firms that we partners that we make basically available through the BOBIC platform, and we have new exposure to crypto with something that deliver a better return or drawdown depending on the risk kind of reward profile for the family first. And as we do the second function of BOBIC, on one side we create wealth, on the second function, it's very similar to a family office, create wealth on one side and redistribute wealth on the other. The redistribution wealth on the other, for me, from the original vision, is to make it a lot more participatory. So participatory in the case of family office, we're talking about how to include the next generation in the family office. Like if let's say if you're like six, seventh family, six, seven generation in a family, we're talking about the people who are in their maybe in their 20s or 30s right now. So how do we make the next generation kind of being more involved in the decision making of where we should allocate our resource to grow our family, but also what legacy do we want as a family. So the second function of BOBIC, beyond creating wealth through algo trading, through AI and algo trading, is actually to allow the different members of the family to decide where we should allocate wealth on one side to increase, the wealth of the family, but also where should be the focus and what should be the legacy of a family. Which means through BOBIC, you have the opportunity to vote on one side, kind of the governance for the family, where we should allocate our money, both for making money and also redistributing money. What kind of legacy, what kind of impact do we want as a family? When we talk about generational wealth, we're usually thinking like kind of, that's my Chinese way, like 5 generations from now. And from the discussion, with Balaji and so on, the idea is like we start with the family office and then we move up the ladder. Up the ladder is typically sovereign wealth fund. Sovereign wealth fund will be also owning digital assets through Bitcoin exposure, like a lot of states in USA, but also in Oman and various countries in Middle East and Latin America, like El Salvador, where also I used to live and so on, all start to buy and accumulate Bitcoin. Through this, we can use that as the collateral and start trading. Start trading to generate additional income that can be redistributed also through the BOBIC platform to the population, to basically the families of the state or of the countries. And then we can move down the ladder. So up the ladder, that's sovereign wealth fund, that's universal basic income and so on. The second part of the ladder, that's where we start. That's like the family office, the $11 trillion controlled by 7,000 families also, who wants to go from 1% to 2%, 3%. UBS, head of wealth management last week was even talking about 5% for some of the largest clients of UBS, which is, $1 trillion or so in management. And then down family office, we go to the ladder of corporates. So corporates, we've seen a lot of SMEs and mid-size companies, and of course large companies like Apple and Tesla and Google and Microsoft and so on, who start to accumulate also digital asset exposure as part of their treasury. Same thing. We can start trading part of that and facilitate the redistribution, for example, to their employees or shareholders and so on, or both. And also what kind of legacy where some of this money should actually go beyond their employees and shareholders and so on. And then if we move down the ladder, that's obviously, where the original idea of BOBIC come from. That's like the retail investors, like the normal family. So how can we be inclusive? How can we create a tool that generates wealth, not just for the rich or the super rich, but also for the general population? And have this idea of universal basic income, and have this idea that while the world is shifting, well, we're going to create tools that are going to be available to a lot more people than just the super rich. And also we're going to create tools for redistribution that, for example, let's say there is another fire at a church like Notre Dame, or climate disaster and so on. How can we, through the platform, very quickly, through the traders and through the families and through the retail investors and so on, how can we very quickly have a tool on the internet that allow financing to help cause that needs help? So that's in a nutshell how BOBIC Generational Wealth kind of form, and I'm very excited to onboard you guys on that. Any questions, maybe Thomas, that you have, or any feedback for me at the moment?
No, Ludovic, I think it seems overwhelming. The objective is very is seems high. The stakes are tremendous, and I think it's a great solution to be able to give this tool to these family offices and sovereign funds and others to increase their wealth, transmit them, and the last twist is very interesting. It creates transversal worldwide fund in a way. So it's not
Yeah,
the worldwide bank; it's the worldwide fund, uh, piloted by family offices, to be able to fund and finance causes that they want to fund. The question would be the governance of this allocation, or in your mind, your opinion, do you think that it would be just proposing causes and the people to select them, and then it goes like that, or would it be voting systems?
yeah, it's a very good question. So one thing that I didn't mention actually, as part of the BOBIC platform, what we are, providing to the families, to the people, to the companies, and so on, is also this capacity to actually create on-chain endowment or on-chain trust or on-chain foundation. So that means there is the Fidelity Endowment Fund that is very famous for the super wealthy and the ultra in USA. But through a BOBIC platform, you will actually be able to create any vehicle that serve specific purpose for a limited period of time or for a longer time. It could be, for example, your on-chain foundation that relates to your family legacy, but it also can be a specific, purpose vehicle that is created, for example, just to help the recovery in post-fire in Los Angeles or post-fire in Notre Dame, or some, climate crisis happening in some island and some countries and so on. So anyone can actually create this endowment. Anyone can from there start collecting funds and redistribute the funds toward the charities or toward their their own organization as they wish. Also from a cultural point of view, I believe that the internet today, doesn't have a tool to quickly collect fund to basically fund communities. So if you're from, Utah, for example, you might be, Mormon, and well, that's a way for you also to, for example, work with traders who will also give back to your church that kind of relates to you. If you're, in your case, Thomas, like kind of the this idea that we can heal the world. How do you call this in Hebrew?
Um, ah, you mean the action of healing the yes. Yes, it's a specific it's a very important it's a very important action within this community that the there's a responsibility for healing the world. Not sure that that's actually what we're doing right now, but will improve in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, that's this idea of being a good bench. That's they're very close also to. So I believe what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot more vehicles created online that will basically support a specific cause for specific communities. And then you will have, thanks to the internet, you will have people who wants to support this cause will actually have the vehicle to actually financially also support this cause, which is something we don't have yet. So, we have things like Lending Club and so on. We have platform to kind of facilitate loan, and that's getting, pretty big on the internet. But we don't have something that actually can fund specific cause and at the same time also vehicle that can, generate profit for not just one or two master, like kind of the master of the larger financial company, but here in that case, something a lot more decentralized and participatory. So that's really the two function for BOBIC. One side, creating this pocket of AI on the internet with algo trading teams behind it that create wealth through the act of autonomous trading, and on the other side, have this pocket of people who kind of get together to fund specific cause that is close to their art and close to their communities.
And you plan to publicize the allocation of funds, like the wall of fame that some people want, some people do not want. I guess one of the benefit of the blockchain is that you have the proof of action and it is secure and it cannot be changed, but
Yeah.
it can be publicized or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's something that we, evolve as we are growing, and the decision we've made is like it's optional to, for example, give back. We're not forcing like donation to charities and so on. It's up to people to decide. So as a family or as a retail investors, I can decide that part of the profit that I receive from a specific trading vault will go to my own foundation, with my family members and so on, my kids, my wife, my mom and mother-in-law and so on, or might go to a specific charity that I want to endorse, or might go to, a specific endowment that maybe you created for a specific cause that, we both personally can relate to, but it's optional. It's optional for you as a, as a client of BOBIC. It's also optional for the traders. So for the traders, they can not give anything back to charity or whatever. They don't have to. But if they want to, if they decide that they want to give back to a specific cause and so on, they can also display it as part of their vote. That X% of their profit will go to which charity, and all this is done in an autonomous and traceable way through the blockchain. So that's also a way for me as a client to say, hey, I could work with this trader or with this AI, we call it like autonomous trading machine, or that vault, that ATM, but I'm going to work with this one because this one actually gives the same performance as the other one, the same cost and so on. But he actually is closer to my heart, is closer to my value. He also give to, for example, the same, foundation or cause that I'm also supporting. As a trader, you can also say, "Hey, I'm doing very well. I can welcome maybe $200 million in capital, and the return is amazing, and I've got very good, track and history and so on. I can increase my fee because I can decide that, but it's not what I want ultimately. I want to prioritize allocation to clients, to investors who also are aligned with me, which means, for example, who are giving back to climate for a specific foundation that I also want to support."
Understood.
Cool. Any final closing comment maybe on your side, Thomas?
As a family office, I would then open an account, buy some tokens, and then how will my investment strategy be selected?
Yeah.
Can
The,
can I implement my own strategy, or can I select specific things? Who will manage the actual allocation of my funds?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So right now, as we're working with, large family office, we're typically talking about on average, like, millions to like 32 million or so allocation in digital assets from them, which is, 2% or so of the total assets of the family. We are very, very much kind of this white, and gloves kind of approach where we discuss with the family and the family office and we say, okay, how much do you currently have in digital assets? 1%. Okay. How much do you think you should have? Well, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. Let's say 2%. Then the next question is like, okay, how much is your total assets? Okay, total assets is this, so 2% means how much? Okay, on average, that's like $32 million. From there, we usually split into four buckets as like kind of a starting discussion for the allocation. We start with like 30, 30, 30, 10. The first 30 is usually very much like Bitcoin related. Most families, they're familiar already with Bitcoin. They already have Bitcoin and so on. And they want to get through BOBIC to get something better than just Bitcoin. So for example, within this 30% bucket, which is very much like Bitcoin related, we say, okay, we have different strategy available. Some of them are like 100% Bitcoin, and we're just kind of optimizing the in and out. So it's called like channeling. Bitcoin is kind of doing that, but Bitcoin is doing this and this and this and this and this and this and this. So we basically through the algorithm, we're optimizing entry and exit. That means, we sell when it's high, we buy when it's low, we sell when it's high, we buy when it's low, etc., etc. Other strategy are very similar to that, but we say it's 90% Bitcoin, 10% other coins, which usually have higher volatility, which means also higher return. Bitcoin today is already at $104,000, more or less. So 10% of that might be other coins. When this other coin represents more than 10% on a weekly basis, we automatically rebalance. Rebalance, that means if we have now not 10%, but 15% in altcoins, automatically we sell some of the altcoins and we buy Bitcoin. That's a way to buy more Bitcoin, faster than just by buying Bitcoin. And we have different strategy related to that. The second bucket is usually related to other coin and typically usually the top 50. So different strategy that have different exposure, different volatility and potential reward for other coins. We're talking, like Solana or Chili's and the top 50 coins more or less in trading volume. And then the third bucket, well, that's a bucket that usually kind of look for a little bit higher volatility, higher return. And the fourth bucket, the 10%, is like kind of the fun bucket. Is like, okay, I want to be exposed to digital assets, not just to do like, 12% or 20% or 30% or 40%. Give me something juicy. You guys are like the expert of crypto. So there is maybe some small coins. I know I cannot allocate a lot of money on that, but Let's get some exposure to something that can be a little bit more explosive. And from there, from this 3+1 bucket, we usually have multiple strategy, and then we adjust based typically on the risk reward profile of the family.
Understood. So it's clear. So you have your own trading team,
So
AI based, I assume.
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So we don't have our own trading team. We have, and because that will go against our decentralized approach, we actually have multiple trading teams who are ex Goldman Sachs, ex Citadel, ex Bitmain, and so on, who are funds usually like properly licensed, who already manage 50, 100, $200 million in digital assets, and who have usually 3 to 5 strategy plus another 10 strategy in the available that this strategy become available through the clients of BOBIC.
So they trade on their behalf and they're being paid on the profit they made, and they share the profit of the trade with the assets they have been allocated to.
Correct, yeah. Ourselves, we don't take a cut on the profit or management fee or profit, what we call like a carry or management fee. We only take a fee at the entry when there is allocation of money toward these different AI trading teams, and we take a fee at the exit. So when there is redistribution of profit, we take a fee then. Then it's up to them to actually decide how much they charge. Usually, one of the big advantage for them and for the family office is if they have a fund that, let's say a $200 million fund that has been growing for the last 3 or 4 years, it's usually 3 or 4 strategies. The problem is they're kind of stuck to this 3 or 4 strategy because that's what they've been selling for the last, 3 years that they've been gradually increasing their assets under management. Here, it's a lot more flexible. You can directly go into one strategy out of the three, strategy that they mostly use for their fund, or you can also go for a strategy that now is maybe more relevant today in the current market than the strategy that they start selling 3 years ago. And then per strategy, the AI trading team decide how much they charge. Typically for simple strategy like reallocation of Bitcoin, the first bucket that I mentioned, this fee can be, fairly low because it's actually fairly easy strategy to implement for people who know how to do this kind of strategy. Strategy that require a little bit more sophistication can also have, a higher alpha being like return. Usually this strategy can be priced at a, higher management fee and carry.
So it means that um, there's a kind of a competition between the different traders and different competitions, and they will publicize their return and what they do, and then you can decide on maybe on a daily basis or a monthly basis to switch from one to the other. So you just take
Uh,
the allocation back, and they have
yeah,
to, but basically you take off the control of the allocated assets. You don't have to sell your asset when you switch from one strategy to the other. You just
yeah, absolutely. That's actually one thing that's one of the ex-Citadel guy that we are working with mentioned to us. He said like, traders will very quickly copy each other. Meaning like if there is some simple strategy like the rebalancing on Bitcoin or channeling on Bitcoin and so on that get very popular, people will just say, hey, I can do much more complicated strategy, but if you want that, I'm also going to have this strategy available. These
Mhm.
guys have already like very good, scoring history in the system. Think a little bit like, the Airbnb scoring or the Uber scoring,
Mhm.
like they accumulate scoring across, across months of, regular payout and properly licensed algo trading fund and so on. Well, they will just say, okay, this strategy is popular, so I'm going to also provide it to the market, and I'm going to provide it at a lower fee. Or I'm going to
Mm.
provide it at the same fee, but I'm also going to give X% of my profit to a specific charity that, I relate to and that maybe my potential investor can also relate to.
Understood.
So the market will regulate itself. That's why we don't want to be the one doing the strategy, and that's why we don't want to be the one pricing how much each access to this strategy should be, because it's
It's a
going to
market.
be a lot more market dynamic. Yeah.
It's a marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In a trusted environment. When I say trusted environment, that means like we don't have a view on the trade itself, but we have a view on the strategy, and to make sure that the traders with the allocated fund for the specific strategy can actually play within this constraints. For example, Bitcoin only, for example, like this kind of risk management approach.
Understood. Well, it seems you have thought of everything. I'm convinced.
Cool. Any final word?
I think it's a wonderful tool, Ludovic. You've thought of everything. I need to let that sink in, and and but from my point of view, it seems the missing link for the next generation. So um, that's a wonderful tool. But I'm eager to participate.
Cool. Thank you.